Amazon to Meta to Facebook and even Goldman Sachs, we're featuring the top software engineers, product managers, and even UX designers in this video. So stay tuned, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
I'm with
Rhea. I interned at Amazon and Meta my freshman and sophomore summers. I was part of the Amazon Feature Engineers Scholarship Program, and they basically gift you an internship the summer after your freshman year. So for that one specifically, I didn't have to recruit. In terms of my Meta recruitment process, I actually had never leak coded before I started applying to roles my sophomore year summer. Found out I had a final round at another FAANG company. I decided it was time to really get on the grind and start leak coding. My biggest advice, I'd say, in terms of SWE recruitment is to come to an interview with good ideas of how you would be able to contribute to the company. There's no recruiter or no interviewer that I've talked to that isn't impressed by people that come in with strong and unique ideas and genuinely demonstrating the passion that you have for working in the SWE field.
Walk me through the process of what you did to help stand out in your interviews to make yourself more individualistic when interviewing.
So a lot of the times I would go through programs from those companies that weren't considered internships as a way of getting my foot in the door. So I'm currently doing a fellowship at Google. I did a fellowship at Goldman Sachs this past summer, and those are all SWE development programs. Most of the time it's about making good connections with people that have a strong amount of say in who gets hired and what the company is truly looking for. So I would definitely recommend going into each company that you're really interested in and seeing if they have a webinar or a connection with a recruiter.
What are some common mistakes that you see students make?
I think they look at recruiting as everybody around them is competition, and they have to do better than their peers to be able to land the internship that they want. Reaching out and finding supportive communities is something that's really helped me.
Keya, I finished my internship at NVIDIA.
What would you say are the most important things to consider when trying to connect with professionals and develop good relationships in the professional world as well?
That's a good question. I started becoming really active on LinkedIn, completed my profile, started reaching out to a bunch of people, trying to just build my connections. I'm using my connections, and I really just reached out to a lot of people for coffee chats. I looked at the people that I knew, like my friends of friends.
What's your tips to cold email, cold message, and how do you be successful when cold messaging?
Give them a time frame from the beginning, so it's not as much planning on their part as much as they just have to show up and talk to you. Don't make it too lengthy because no one receiving a large email is likely to read it.
If you want a career in product management, what are the things that you could start doing right now to get an internship?
The three most important things is to have cross-functional leadership. So make sure you have something on your resume that shows you have cross-functional leadership. How do you set up your program? How do you keep things organized? How do you keep things on schedule? Make sure you have that on lock. And then also just good communication skills. Knowing the customer perspective and being able to communicate to them was going to be different than the way you communicate to people internally. So just understanding that difference and knowing when to say what is super important. So
what's up, you guys? I'm with Safwat. I'm going to be a technical program manager on the Azure team on the cloud innovations and operations.
Awesome. So if students want to break into Microsoft, what is something they need to stop doing?
One, feel like they deserve it when they apply, because the other thing I would say is stop trying to put everything on paper to make yourself seem more appealing, because at the end of the day, a recruiter or a principal PM, whoever's interviewing you, sees through that, will ask you about those experiences, and we'll kind of see if you're making it up or not. So I would just say have quality experiences rather than quantity.
What are your three biggest tips to make yourself stand out in any interview?
One is the confidence in your introduction as well. Usually in the introduction, again, when people love to talk about where they came from or not, that's all cool and all for a college essay, but you need to just keep that quiet and only refer to what the position is and how you're a good fit for that position, so they know that you're being serious. You're off the bat, you're serious. If the story you have is being made up on the spot, it's not a good story, for sure. And the story that you are saying that has been rehearsed or is true, it comes off way more genuine because your tone and your speech becomes a lot more clear. And I think that's really important. And lastly, it's also to ask the interviewer questions as well. There's nothing worse than interviewing someone that's all I did when the principal PM would interview me, he's talking about his team, didn't just go through one ear out the other. I listened to what he said, and I went ahead and asked him questions about what his team does, what his experience was as a PM, if he would go back in time, how he'd change it, and just ask questions about his team. I'd seem interested in his team. So to me, that felt like they liked me when I said that, and it was a genuine curiosity of it.
What is the worst piece of career advice that you ever received, and why?
They would say cold message people on LinkedIn. I've never seen more of a backhanded introduction to someone. I'm not going to go around and just like message 300 plus people talking about, can I get a referral or can I set up a coffee chat or whatnot? Because at the end of the day, they're going to say the same thing, and their interest is above your own. So I would literally just say, develop yourself as much as possible in the position you're in.
I appreciate you, Safwat.
I got you, bro. Thank you.
My name is Myles Block. Interned at multiple places. My first internship was at JB Hunt, and then my second internship was with Meta, and then my most recent internship was with Uber.
If you want to break into the field of computer science, what is something you need to stop doing?
Working on things that are not aligning with your goals. A lot of us, especially our generation, we spend time procrastinating, doom scrolling, if you will. I'm not saying you can't do those things, but if you leverage your time right, obviously, to put your face out there, because really all we have is time. You just want to make sure you're using that
Do you
wisely.
feel like you have to really sell yourself and be a different corporate version of yourself, or do you feel like you're able to express yourself authentically and most importantly transparently?
That's a great question. I'm so glad you answered this. So I've worked at many places, mentored at different places. Some of those places would fit under the description of what you mentioned, right? Where you have to dress a certain attire, look a certain way. The way I operate, and this may be a byproduct of my background, but my experiences, I'm going to be unapologetically me all the time. So if I'm working in an environment that is restricting me, I don't want to work there. I don't care if you're paying me $1 million. I'm sorry. And if you are in an environment, right, that challenges that, I say challenge those people. I'm always the type of person to say, okay, the reasoning on why we're being restrictive, right? It could be some sort of racial bias. It could be some institutional bias. I would say never settle for whatever environment you're in, just, chilling. Challenge the environment or find an environment that's conductive for you.
What do you feel has been the worst piece of career advice you ever received?
That is a good question. The worst piece of career advice I've ever gotten was to slow down. And the only reason why I say it's the worst piece of career advice is because people are going to tell you stuff from positions of power, in the corporate world or even just in life. And what I found out recently, or the most recent past years, is that a lot of people will voice their opinions. And it's easy for us as young people to listen and conform to it, but we never fact check and say, are they even credible enough to say that? So for that particular person that said slow down, they weren't credible enough to tell me that. It's not always going to be productive advice, because you are your own journey. You are your own career path. My career path isn't going to match yours. Your career path's not going to match mine, which is going to match hers, and that's completely fine, like the purpose. So take those, back into your mind, consider it, but you don't have to conform to it.
What's going on, you guys? I'm with Bishal.
I'm going to be interning at Goldman Sachs for this summer at their Asset and Wealth Management Private Group.
What is the best question that you ever asked in a coffee chat?
In a coffee chat, I would say the career progression. I really like to know the field that I'm going to be interning at, and I've talked to a lot of software engineers about how they have really progressed in their career, which have actually helped me find this intern.
What do you think is the most common mistakes you see with students when trying to break into the world of tech?
I would say, even me, I try to apply with the same resume for every role. I didn't try to make it that specific. And then I got so many rejections that I had to do something different. So what I did was I made the resume specific for every role and then tried to get that key points in every job. Then I started getting more interviews. I got interviews at Google, at Meta, and also at Goldman Sachs. So I would say that really helps.
What is one skill that students especially lack in the tech industry?
I would say preparation, right? I know lead code is hard, it's monotonous, you're just solving that problems, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Even if you're doing lead code for 2 years, sometimes you'll see a problem that you cannot solve, and some people just give up, right? And I know it's hard, I know it's easy to give up, but making that progress, even one lead code a day for people out there, right? But as you follow your passion, as you do these things, you'll certainly get that job.
What is the one question that you've asked at the end of an interview?
About the team culture and what the work that I'll be doing as an intern, I think that really matters. Having that clarity of what the role that they're trying to assign to me, and then try to better prepare myself for coming to that internship, right?
What's going on, you guys? I'm with
Elicia Williams. I interned at Apple.
If students want to break into Apple, what is one thing they need to stop doing?
If they want to break into Apple, I would say stop being afraid to network and speak to people in the room, and just
If you go to a school that maybe doesn't recruit from Apple, what is one thing you need to start doing?
start reaching out to people on LinkedIn and finding connects, maybe someone that's at your school that interned there.
What's your experience with creating the third door of opportunities?
What I'll say is by creating the third door is I'm always putting myself first and talking to a lot of people and making sure that I'm marketing myself. So when it's time to see my application, they already know who I am.
How would you create personal branding if you've never had an internship?
I would say creating your personal branding, you can do it through your LinkedIn or your Instagram or your social media platforms, and showing who you are, being true to yourself. Start creating content, letting them people know what you do, something that's resonate with you and that shows your true identity.
What is the worst piece of career advice you ever received?
The worst piece of advice that I say I can receive is having a 30-second pitch. Most companies don't care about the 30 seconds. They really want something that's quick, fast, and simple. They need 15 seconds. Because after the 20 seconds, they already lost. And they don't care what you got to say. So I say keep it 15 seconds, quick, simple, easy, and something to catch their eyes and something.
I'm with
Nicole DeBerry.
When going back to the recruitment process, what do you think is the biggest mistake that students make?
The biggest mistake, I think, one, not following up, and I've been sort of guilty of that too in the past, just not checking in, making sure that you find that contact person and are like, hey, just want to check in on this, or like, it was great speaking to you, would love to talk to you more about X, Y, and Z, just finding ways to continue to engage and keep your name relevant and at the top of people's inboxes, and not in a ridiculous way where people are going to be annoyed, but like finding that good balance.
How do you make a really great cold email?
I'll be honest, AI is very helpful. I'll take old emails that I've done and then I'll use chat or Grammarly to help me either make it more formal or personable. I always err on the side of it being shorter than longer. Like, people aren't going to read long cover letter length emails from you. Getting straight to the point. So, hey, wanted to connect on X, Y, and Z. It was really great talking to you at this thing. Really using those key points so people can be like, oh, I remember you from this. Or like, giving people context is really important.
What's the best question that you ever asked Coffee Chat?
I love to ask people what they love most about their work. Being able to talk about yourself and what you really enjoy about your work is probably the best thing that people like. Sort of easing that into conversation, but really like asking people about them and you asking them like, what's a day in your life?
I'm with Daniel. I've entered at Salesforce for the past 2 summers.
If students want to get an internship at a place like Salesforce, what do they stop doing?
One, I would say your network, your connection, that's really important. Two, I would say that when it comes to breaking into tech, it's really specific for software engineering. I would say that like, it's important that your data structures algorithm and definitely like make sure that your portfolio is all built up. So I think in today's day and age, it's really huge. People are definitely trying to see a lot more projects that you built and like what is the impact of the project that you built.
How do you stand out if nobody from your school has ever worked at a place like Salesforce?
That's a good question. So I would say it's 2 things. One is where have you been? And 2 is what have you done? Have you done internships in the past? Have you done research experience in the past? Are you active in your club engagement or club activities? Do you have a leadership position, right? Emphasizing things like that can really help you stand out. Going for more networking events, right? So putting yourself in the uncomfortable situation is, I was literally with a lady that just says that like, you can't grow when you're comfortable. And we're talking about that right now. So like, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations where you're forced to talk, right? For me, I've always been very introverted, and I think my sophomore year was the first time where I had to force myself to just grow out of my comfort zone.
What's going on, you guys? I'm with
Tolu. I interned at Google Tech Exchange.
So how do you build your brand when you go to a school that isn't recruited for tech?
That's a tough one. Honestly, I guess trying to sell yourself and trying to sell your skills. The hard work aspect does play a role because then you're confident in your skills. But then once you've gotten that hard work side of things done, and you have the skills, you should sell yourself and the skills that now you have the confidence in.
How do you lock in as an engineer?
I ain't gonna lie. You have to know your motivations. Because one, you have to honestly love what you're doing. Because then, let's not sugarcoat it, it's a really hard field, depending on what you're doing. Once you know genuinely what you want to do, just having that motivation as to why you want to do what you want to do. For example, let's say I'm a junior, I'm trying to get a full-time job as a full-stack engineer. Start doing lead code problems way ahead of time, start making projects, things like that. So honestly, a lot of people are in there for the money. The money comes eventually, but like, if you're stressed out and get burnt out, you're not going to get anywhere.
And you guys, I'm with
Michael J. Johnson Jr. I previously interned at Lockheed Martin this past summer and HP Inc., as well as the Naval Research Laboratory my freshman year of college.
So what do you think was the key to break into all those internships?
So I think the key to breaking into all those internships was actually putting myself out there. So apply for as many scholarships, internships, and different programs, especially with companies that will literally pay you and fly you out to you're young. What's the worst that can happen? Building up your resume and putting yourself out there is the best thing you can do as a college student.
How did you understand the opportunities that are available, one? But two, also put yourself out there. What was the process like?
A lot of research was involved. Coming into college, I'm a first generation college student.
How do you make those really authentic and genuine connections in the workplace?
I'm a very big basketball fan, and sports is a really big thing, especially here in America. And so talking with recruiters, I've been on interviews where I've talked with the interview specifically for college basketball for just 30 minutes.
Right.
So just finding things to relate on with your coworkers, with your corporate managers, hiring managers.
All right, what's going on, you guys? I'm with
Gael. Currently, I work as a governance, risk, and compliance analyst for a construction company.
What advice would you give to other students who want to break into tech but just don't know where to start?
The first thing, you should decide what field do you like. So there is even data analytics. And if you don't want to be on the technical side of cybersecurity, you can always go into governance, risk, and compliance, which is what I do.
How do you make yourself stand out when you have no internships on your resume?
The best way to stand out when you have no internship in your resume is to pass some certification. In my case, is a very great example because when I left Haiti and I moved to the US, which is Certified Information System Auditor from...
My name is Ija Laguna. I've interned at Apple as a software engineering and robotics intern.
So if students want to break into a career at Apple, what is something they need to stop doing?
Stop not trying your best to network. Try your best to just put yourself out there, I guess, and try to really learn about a certain field. Because the thing about Apple is that, very team by team based. So yeah, stop not doing lead code.
How many lead code questions is enough?
Someone's gonna say do 200. I'm say do 1,000, 1,500. Like, you guys be doing some crazy stuff, but I think what you really want to do is that you really want to understand different algorithms. For example,
what is the worst piece of career advice you ever received?
I would say that the vehicle that you're in plays a big factor in where you get to. Be aware of the vehicle you're in. Vehicle could be like a career you're in, it could be like software engineering, it could be anything, but you have to really understand that no matter how much work you put in, there's certain vehicles that have a cap that once you get to, that's it, right? So I would say, think about what you care about, right? And then try your best to put yourself in a vehicle that can get you to scale and do a lot of cool things.
What's going on, you guys? I'm with Dagim. I work at Capital One. I'm a senior manager of product. In your experience, what do you think is the best background per se to pivot if you want to go into product management? One is data analytics. A core part of a product manager's job is to take data and gather insights from it to make product recommendations to ultimately solve a problem. The second one, which is technical background. If you're a software engineer and you understand the product development lifecycle, then you already will know the agile kind of framework that will come into the job as a product manager, and you also have the technical background. So that's I guess an easier answer that people tend to say is software engineer as well. So what do you think is the one thing that people, and especially students, should be doing right now if they want to break into product management? Build a technical foundation. Not looking for when we're hiring product managers here at Capital One, we're not looking for a software engineer. But we'd like for you to have an understanding, a basic understanding, any technical architecture. What is cloud? What are APIs? What are the different coding languages? Having that basic framework or understanding of technology will just help you in your decision making and then help you further your career, which I assume people getting into product, you want to be a product leader.
Elicia? It's been a long day.